Stamford Bridge is sinking as Pep Guardiola yet again won another trophy at the expense of Mikel Arteta. Welcome to the Show. Thanks indeed for always being a part of the show. My name is Hindu and this called Rivo TV. So it was a chaotic weekend of laughter, tears, and celebration. Very quickly, let's begin with the game between Brighton versus Liverpool. So it ended in a 2-0 advantage to Brighton. And then Welbeck brace sinked Liverpool and further derailed their chances of qualifying for Champions League next season. Liverpool went behind in the 14th minute, but Milos Keskes got them back leveled in the 30th minute. But that's all Liverpool could do, as their chances of Europe next season is still hanging on a string. Now, after the performance against Galatasaray in the Champions League, where Liverpool won 4 goals to nil at Anfield, fans will begin to believe again. They thought perhaps the team that they knew is now back. They were feeling like Liverpool was going to go all the way from there, especially that Champions League qualification is on the line. They were going to brace up from their win against Galatasaray and do perhaps something against Brighton, at least get a win or a draw away at Brighton. But when it comes to Premier League, it is a different ball game altogether. In fact, Liverpool were second best at large spell in that game against Brighton. Now, fans are beginning to agitate and asking question if um, Arne Slot should be fired at the end of the season. And pundits are arguing if at all it would be a good idea or a fair decision if Arne Slot is relieved of his job at the end of the season. Personally, if you ask me, I would say um, Slot came in his first season, yeah. He got the league. Premier League is not just like any other league. It's not like the German Bundesliga where you would expect season in, season out for a Bayern Munich to clinch the title, or in the League One where you expect a certain PSG to always be there at the top. So if PSG has a new coach, or Bayern Munich has a new coach and the guy comes in and win the league in the first season, you would perhaps say it's not a big deal. Yeah. Yeah. But when it comes to the Premier League, you have the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United. You can't just write anything off in the Premier League. So you saw Arne Slot came in his first season and clinched the league. So that's a big stuff for me, if you ask me. It's a big thing. So at the end of the day, he got new players, new legs, trying to set up a super team, which has not really given him what he wants. You can see since the arrival of Isak has not really been in that team as you would want, and the other guy they signed from Liverpool was also injured at some point. He's just trying to find his own mojo and all of this guy. So I think um, if Arne Slot does not qualify for Champions League this season, it doesn't call for his sack. Yes, sincerely. And perhaps if you give him another chance, another season, and he fails to, you know, charge for the league or perhaps qualify for Champions League, then you can ask questions and perhaps demand for his sack. But now, after delivering a league title in the first season, then things do not go his way in the second season. You not ask for his sacking. But well, that's my opinion. I don't think Liverpool fans are thinking the same way I am, because right now every one of them is agitating for Arne Slot to be fired at the end of the season, which I don't think is going to be a fair decision. Anyways, let's see how Liverpool hold on until the end of the season. If at all, they'll get to qualify for Champions League next season. Now let's talk about Bournemouth versus Manchester United. Ended in a 2-2 draw. United and Bournemouth once again failed to produce a winner. It was more like an outcome of the same meeting when these two sides met at the beginning of this season. It was a 4-4 uh, thriller at the first encounter this season. So again, but I actually thought like Manchester United have gone past that era, since they've moved on from that era since the arrival of Michael Carrick. And if anytime they meet a Bournemouth side, definitely they were going to get a win against them, especially that they've been doing incredible things. They've lost just one game since the arrival of Michael Carrick. But it seems like when it comes to Bournemouth, United boys forget how to win a game of football. Well, there were lots of if you watch that game, you saw there were lots of controversies in that game, especially the Amad Diallo situation where Mayu fans are saying it was a foul and he deserved to be given a penalty. If you look at that situation critically, if you look at it critically, you would agree that yes, Amad Diallo was fouled, but the contact was minimum. I could see that the referee was in a close range. So for him to have made that decision, I believe it was not, enough a contact to be a penalty. But my United fans are saying they were cheated in that game, and perhaps it should have been another penalty for them. They had the first penalty. Their first goal was their only goal in that game was a penalty. So they were saying it should have been given another penalty so they could know that have gone levels, but it ended 2 goals. It ended 2-2 in that game. Now, perhaps you could weigh in on that conversation and drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know if at all you think that was enough contact for Amad Diallo to have been awarded a penalty in that situation, or you think it wasn't enough of a contact for a penalty. Just like I am thinking, because my youth fans, they just think like they were robbed in that game and they deserve to win that game by 3 goals to 2. Well, let's see what you think about that in the comment section. Now let's talk Everton versus Chelsea. 3 goals to 0. It ended in favor of Everton. Now, since 2019, this is the first time where Everton will score 3 goals against a Chelsea side. Wow, one would expect that after that shambolic performance against PSG in the Champions League, where Chelsea conceded 8 goals, they should have corrected their errors, tightened their defense, and perhaps get things sharpened up front. But Chelsea were looking very reluctant and sluggish in that game against Everton, as Everton punished them with 3 unreplied goals. That's unlike a Chelsea side playing against Everton. They could not score a single goal. Well, a Beto brace and India go in the 76th minute. It's all that Everton needed to sink Chelsea and send them back to the bridge without a goal and, of course, without a point. Now, things are looking very, very tight for Chelsea to qualify for Champions League next season. It doesn't look like Chelsea are hopeful for Champions League next season, except that Liverpool, who are contending for that position with them, are equally unstable. They're also looking very shambolic, if I should say. They equally lost their game. So Chelsea might be hoping that if Liverpool keep dropping points, they may capitalize on that and get the fifth position to qualify for Champions League. But Chelsea on their own, it doesn't look like they're going to get their mojo back anytime soon. Game in, game out, they keep looking worse and worse as time progresses. But well, it is still about 7 games to go. If Liam Rosner can get his out together, perhaps at the end of the day, he can be able to muster something out and qualify his team for Champions League next season. But yeah, Chelsea fans are beginning to agitate, of course, asking question if Liam is indeed the right person for that job. And we know the philosophy of Chelsea management, Chelsea board. It doesn't take them time to show a manager or a coach the exit door. They're not like perhaps the Liverpool side or the Liverpool management board that you know takes time to study situation and all of that. Give a coach time to prove themselves. But a Chelsea side, they can just a lot of hiring and firing. Yes, they do a lot of hiring and firing. So could be expecting that from now to the end of the season at most. And Liam Rosny, if he does not get things working very well for him at Chelsea, he might just be showing the exit door at Stamford Bridge. Let's move on and talk about the relegation battle where Nottingham Forest made sure that they dumped Tottenham Hotspur at their own stadium. 3 goals, 3 points with nothing left for Tottenham. And again and again and again, what is Spurs' fate this season? They are now in the 17th position. Nottingham Forest, with that win, they are now 2 points ahead of Spurs, which means that Spurs are now contending with West Ham to see who is going to stay on top of that relegation zone. Everton, if not they lost, if not that West Ham lost their game, they could have, been on the same points with Tottenham Hotspur. Was Paul relegated this season, or would they somehow find a way to get things done for themselves at the end of the season? It doesn't look like so for me because they still have they still have to play Chelsea this season. So if they could not win against Beto and Nottingham Forest, are you expecting them to go away and get a win against Chelsea? Very much unlikely. Very much unlikely. Igor Tudu will need to do an extraordinary job to say his side escape relegation this season. Now, before I close in on the show, take a look at what happened in the EFL Cup final between Arsenal and Manchester City. Yet again and again and again, Pep Guardiola showed class against a Mikel Arteta. Before that game, let's begin with what Arteta said after that game. Arteta this came out to defend his choice of goalkeeper. He fielded Kepa Arrizabalaga instead of his number. Instead of Riot in that game. But he came out to say that Kepa Arrizabalaga has been the one keeping staying in the box for them since that competition. So to have gotten them all the way to the finals, of course, it's only fair that Arrizabalaga should be the one to play in the finals. And I quite agree with him. Not that Kepa is that much of a bad goalkeeper. He's decent on its own, very decent, if I should say. So he has been doing very well for them. That's why they were in the finals in the first place. So getting to the final, you wouldn't just sideline him. It would be quite unfair if Kepa was sidelined for David Raya to keep in that game. But well, the decision didn't quite work out for Mikel Arteta because if you watched the game, you could see that the first goal was obviously a Kepa mistake that led to that first goal. So two goals from really made sure that Arsenal hope of getting a quadruple this season was brought to an end. That quest came to an end as Manchester City snatched the EFL Cup from Arsenal. Now Arsenal only have to fight for Champions League, Premier League, and of course FA Cup if they must win more than just a trophy this season. People are beginning to say that yes, Arsenal don't like winning trophy. Well, I don't have anything to say, but I just believe that the Premier League is already in Arsenal's hand. It's their own to win or lose. So if they know what's good for them, if Mikel Arteta knows what to, what to do, he must do it rightly to make sure that at the end of the day he claims at least two trophies. Because to me, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I don't think one trophy would be enough for me because we've come this close when as of Friday, they were dreaming of a quadruple. So you can't end the season with just one trophy. That will not be enough compensation for me if I am an Arsenal fan. So Mikel Arteta will need to put his house together and as much as he can do everything to make sure that at the end of the day he at least end up winning two trophies for his fans. I will also question Arteta's choices sometimes. You could see for the past couple of games, Saka has not been on top of. In fact, this season entirely, Saka has not been on top of his game. But game in, game out, he keep starting Saka ahead of Madueke. And you could also see what he did with Hincapi. Hincapi had a yellow card as early as 16 or 17 minutes in that game, and he wasn't performing at all. He wasn't doing so well in that game. So you would expect that your left back with a yellow card, you sop him up in the first half and bring in Califiori, but he left him. You could see those two goals all came from Nkapé's angle. That's why Arsenal, considered two goals in that game. And at the end of the day, they lost the EFL Cup final. Well, I hope Arteta learns from his mistakes, his substitutions and all of that. Going forward, he still have three titles to fight for. As I said, as an Arsenal fan, if I'm an Arsenal fan, I would say a trophy at the end of the day is not enough. Definitely, I will personally be calling for Arteta exit if I am an Arsenal fan. But well, let's see what Arteta does with the remaining three trophies at his disposal, if at all he gets to win at least two of those three trophies at the end of the day. It's going to be a tough one indeed. Very, very sincere, going to be a tough one. There is Champions League, Madrid is still in that competition. Barcelona are still there. A Bayern Munich side is still in that competition. So PSG also, they are still there. So it's a big, big deal winning the Champions League for Arsenal. But everything is possible in the game of football. But I would expect that at least Ateta should get two trophies for the Arsenal fans at the end of the season. But before I say goodbye on the show, let's take a look at how the table is looking after game week 31. Now, Arsenal and Manchester City were missing in action because they had to play in the EFL Cup Final. So after game week 31, Manchester United, while Arsenal and Manchester City number one and number two, then Manchester United is in the third position on 55 points after their draw against Bournemouth. Now, Aston Villa won against West Ham 2-0. They are now in the fourth position, just um a point behind Manchester United. Liverpool follow suit in the fifth position on 49 points. Chelsea, who lost against Everton, are in the sixth position on 48 points. Now, at the bottom of the table, you have Nott'm Forest, who won against Tottenham Hotspur on in the 16th position on 32 points, or Spurs are in the 17th position on 30 points, just a point above West Ham, who lost against Aston Villa. Burnley and Wolves 20 and 17 points respectively. So just like I say, things are looking very tough and deadly for Tottenham Hotspur. Most likely, if they don't get their things together, they might just be heading for relegation this season. Well, that's about the size of the show for today. Thanks to all. Thank you always being a part of my show. Don't forget to subscribe, follow across social media platforms, engage our content. Appreciate your engagement thus far. See you on Wednesday for the midweek show.